He's going to talk to us about Windows 11. Tim, it's your show.
Okay, thank you, Al. Windows 11 in particular is contentious compared to most Windows releases of the past because of all the doggone hardware specifications that are being made. The bad part about it, it's a moving target, and things have changed since the last 4 or 5 presentations I've done with other groups. And there's nothing really you can do about it. It's just the way it is. And it's a kind of a sad situation because most people don't have what Microsoft is calling supported hardware. And all this change that's going on pertains specifically to security issues. Yes, there are other things that they were addressing, like trying to speed up the performance of the operating system, et cetera, et cetera. But the key is security. And it's taken this nation roughly 20 years to finally wake up and say, we're doing a lousy job on security, but a little bit of this security change in 11, I think, is a little overboard for the average consumer. If you're a person who is working from home or in a business, then the security issues are important because it's through various leaks and other things, because a lot of people who work from home tend to skirt as much as they can of the security features the company they are working for have set up, that it's causing lots of these data breaches we hear about constantly. And it's just one of those sad things. And so now they're turning the screws on everybody is what it amounts to. Now, more recently, Microsoft has announced that they are going to take and allow 11 to be installed on unsupported systems. The system I'm going to show you is an unsupported system. It has one advantage. It's an old business machine. It has the minimum TPM. I had to set it up. The setup of TPM will vary, but basically to make it work, you have to set up a TPM password, unique compared to all your other passwords. If a person sticks a USB device in a USB port, they're going to be challenged for that password. If they can't give the password, it gives them 3 strikes and they're out. If they unplug it, plug it back in, they get 3 more chances and keep going and going and going. But it's assumed that you as the owner of the machine would show up at any time and catch them in the act. At any rate, 11 isn't going to be really for everybody. There's a lot of features that were taken out, and boy, did the landscape change. I'm going to try and share my screen. Now, when I let's see here. Here we go. Now, what I do is, this is called an insider's machine. I go back as an insider all through Windows 10. I try not to customize my insider machine very much compared to my regular machines. Those I'll custom tailor any way I want to. But on this, because of I'm trying to see and sometimes demonstrate, like tonight, what the OS looks like. This happens to be the dark desktop, and there are lots of different desktops. The this down here is our taskbar, and it has upset a bunch of Mac people because this looks like the taskbar on a Mac machine. Personally, I think they're getting bent out of shape for nothing. They should be flattered, if anything. This is movable to the left like we normally see on Windows-based systems. There's even somebody who's figured out how to move it all the way to the right, but I think that's stretching things a bit from my standpoint. Now, if I click on Start, does anybody notice anything different from this Start versus your Windows 10? If not, you got your eyes closed. You now have recommended and more of this. You've got the pin stuff. This is what the blocks are on a Windows 10 screen on the right side of the Start menu. If you want to see the center column where all your applications are at, you click on Apps. All apps start listing. This looks just like in 10. If I click on a white letter by itself, I get the alphabet. And if I click on, say, W, in your 10, if you look at it, you'll see a whole bunch of folders like these. They're all gone in 11. You also see some new entries that are standalone, and you see this new category called Windows Tools. Windows Tools, to me, that looks like the old control panel. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. But this is actually displaying in File Explorer. So, because that's where this comes from. But this gives you access to some tools that they took the folders away from. So you have to know this factor. Also, down here, if I right click, I still get the Windows X sub menu so that I can get to certain things quicker. Like now, instead of command prompt or PowerShell prompt, you get Windows Terminal. Very much like the Linux world, which it's probably copied from. Computer management is new in here. Disk management only shows you the layout of your hard drive and gives you some controlling features so you can change some characteristics. And here's the device manager. Those are used by most people. You do have the other categories that are in Windows 10 still. Now, I'm going to come up here again, and instead of having that left-hand short column where settings is at, they got it basically as a startup app. This is how it looks now. You have a side column by major category, and here's your subsections. So this is information for your display, very similar to what you already got in 10, but a little bit different. Then you have your sound notifications, focus assist, power, storage. This is one that they really want you to use because they activated it. In 10, you have to activate storage sense. This goes through and gives you some idea of how much your disk space is occupied by each of these categories. Temporary being the major one, because temporary means it can be eliminated and give you the space back. But right now, I've got 90.5 gigabytes of what it considers temporary files. Then you have your apps and features, other categories, documents, videos. So it's a feature that is being automatically set up. You can shut it off if you want to, but it has the ability to make space on the fly as your system may need more resources. But it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It does not eliminate necessarily using other tools like CCleaner, etc. But getting back is, again, the upper left corner to come back to the major category. And I'm going to point you to about, and there's a reason for doing it. For a system that is in compliant, you have to look at the processor information here and compare it to a chart of known processors that will be supported. And I will have a PDF at the end of this meeting that I'll put on the chat. The very first article shows you all the processors they are supporting. You have to look at this, and this, I guarantee you, is not a processor that is supported. So this is an unsupported system. Besides giving you information as to what version of Windows you're on right now. Bluetooth and devices, that changed some look, but generally speaking, it's the same as it used to be. Then you have network and internet, and this system is a desktop. It does not have Wi-Fi, so you will not see Wi-Fi listed here. If I was on a laptop, you might see both Ethernet and Wi-Fi on some machines. On some other machines, you would only see Wi-Fi unless I stick in an adapter that allows Ethernet through the USB port. Personalization. This is where we get some of the default backgrounds. This is the one that this computer came with originally. And there it comes. Let's see if I can, I'm going to be stubborn. Every now and then it gets real stubborn about moving things, but at any rate, I hope you can see enough there. It's very bright. People seem to like it. That's another one coming up there. It's a lighter blue, kind of humdrum, in my opinion. But you have several others that can come up. The one that I had up changes periodically the colorful characters that it has in it. Come on, cooperate. Now, this system is not the fastest thing in the world. It's only got 8 gigs, and it's got an ancient processor that goes back before Core I processors. So you got to bear with it a bit. Then you have backgrounds. And this is the same area, but this is where you get to choose a photo of your choice, along with choose to fit your desktop image. And then you have your apps. and how you can change things here. Most of us may modify default apps. And these are like the default apps that we use for things like our browser, etc. Well, it's come to light that Microsoft doesn't want you to change your default browser from Edge. Firefox has found a way around it, so the two are at loggerheads right now. So Microsoft may try and change the game a little bit on Firefox, but they'll probably figure out a way of getting around it. Back to personalization, I had to point out that apps before I forgot about it. We have colors so that you can put a color border at the top of your individual windows, change the color of your taskbar at the bottom, things like that. Transparency used to be a big issue on all Windows prior to 11. Microsoft claims transparency in 11 will have negligible, if any, effect on your system. I have it off because I have an old system here and I need all the CPU cycles and memory I can get. So these are some of the areas in personalization that are most often done. Some people might get into themes, the lock screen picture. Some people might want to change that. They've got all new ones, so you can take your pick of what you want on your lock screen. Touch keyboard. This is for on the screen where you have a touch screen. Your start items folder, etc. Taskbar. Now they give you fonts here in personalization, and device usage may be another biggie in 11. Most of us would use a third-party app to see what our utilization of the disk drive is, and I'm not sure. Okay, this is usage categories. These were mostly found in other areas of either settings or in the old control panel. These give you the ability to, if you're not going to do gaming of any kind other than real low-end games like Solitaire as an example, or Minesweeper, etc., leave it off. Otherwise, you can turn it on if you're a real gamer. Family, this has to do with, do you have kids that you want to control what they can and cannot do on the system? Creativity, especially with photos and videos being a big player with a lot of people. Schoolwork, taking notes, writing essays, collaborative stuff. Entertainment, watching videos on the web or social media, etc. Business functions, privacy resources. So this is something that you want to get into and see what applies to the way you use your computer. Coming back, offhand, that's it for personalization. Under apps, the only other thing that I usually, it's very seldom I have to get into apps and features on even 10. And it might be because I want to uninstall an app from the system. That's usually about it. Default apps I do get into to change my preference for what I consider as my default browser. I hope things change a little bit about them being obstinate of changing from Microsoft Edge, but I use Edge quite a bit myself. A lot of people don't even look at it. And it changed quite a bit. The other one that I look at is Startup. Startup should tell you all the apps that have been installed primarily by you, but not completely, that puts something in the startup folder. This is what slows a lot of people down when they're booting up. I don't care if you got 8, 10, or you get the 11. These things slow you down when they're not needed, and most of them are not needed. So I've got the vast majority of them turned off. This one here, I haven't turned off yet because I haven't had good success getting this thing to work to start with. So I'm leaving it on for the time being. I'm using the desktop teams when we have board meetings. I turn this off so that it is not in memory all the time. I do the same thing in changing settings in Edge and Chrome and Chromium and other similar browsers. I turn off leaving browser software in memory so that it comes back on faster than reloading each time. The bad part about that is unless you have a lot of memory, and some are now pushing 16 gigs as the minimum over the current 8 gigs of memory recommended. It's up to you. I turn it off so that I can say that when I'm done with the browser and I close it, it's out of memory. I can use that memory now for any other programs I'm trying to run. Accounts, that realistically changed the look and feel, but it's still pretty much the same basic thing. Right now, you don't see the word administrator because Tim Kekeis on this machine is a standard user. Otherwise, it would say administrator's account. And that's the way everybody should have their Windows systems, regardless what version they are on. Never run normal day-to-day operations as an administrator. You've got to run as a standard. It gives you added protections above and beyond your regular AV program, firewall, and other pieces of software that are trying to protect your system. Time and language. The only time I've ever gotten into this one here is the date time, and that's very, very seldom. Other than that, the rest I've really not gotten into. This is where you do turn on speech recognition if you want to talk to your computer and have it type out your document for you. Typing here is the touch keyboard, text suggestions and preferences. Not too many people I know of use the touch screen keyboard, except in an emergency situation where they're having a trouble with their physical keyboard. Gaming. I think by and large, this really applies to just the gamers. However, Game Bar on many systems comes with it on. Mine, since I had it off on 10, they turned it off here as well. There are some features that some people might use, such as screen recording in the Game Bar, and not necessarily for games. Then you have accessibilities. Some people think of this as for people with varying kinds of disabilities, such as vision problems, etc. It is part of that, but under mouse pointers, that's where you can change from an all white mouse pointer to an all black to a inverted pointer, which means when it's on a light surface, it shows dark. When it's on a dark surface, it shows light. Or you can have a color which you can customize to what you want. And down here, you can change the size of the pointer that you have, because on some systems, especially the higher resolution screens, this, the pointer becomes almost microscopic. So you may need, especially if you're doing a presentation, to increase the size of your pointer. You have a touch indicator, which can make a circle darker and larger around the mouse. And I haven't figured out if I've got a video card that supports that or not. You have other mouse things like the speed, the primary button. If you're a southpaw, you switch the primary buttons, scrolling, and what if your scroll is used as a middle key and what it does, your text cursor, etc. Then you have privacy and security. Everybody should have almost everything in here shut off, as far as I'm concerned. This is not on this system because it's an insider system, so I have to leave much of this active. But here is your privacy and security. It used to be on your Windows Update category down here on Windows 10. So if you're looking for what's the status of your virus protection, what's your account protection, your firewall and network protection, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, this is where you go now under the privacy and security section. It used to be just privacy. Coming back to here, these are all the various categories. If you have a tendency on most of my machines, I turn the camera and the Microsoft off, but it has to be done in the administrator's account. The standard account cannot turn it on if the administrator account shut it off. With more and more of us using Zoom and other video conferencing, I have more and more machines where I'm having to leave the camera and microphone on so that I can do the conferences. But voice activation is an area even on 10. I have to have certain features on, but for the apps, I don't allow really applications to access the microphone. So Cortana, if it was turned on, would not automatically activate every time I spoke. Let's see here. Back into here. This is the privacy security section still. And oops, I jumped out of that. Sorry about that. But you got tons of general settings that you have to go through and say, am I going to use this information or not? Account info is one that definitely got shut off early in Windows 10 for me, because every time you go somewhere on the browser, it would tell that business more information about you than they need to know about. So that was always off for me. And I had them off in some areas And normally I try and leave them live. One of them has to do with telemetry for troubleshooting that I tended to shut off, and sometimes I had to reactivate it so that I could use a troubleshooter to help figure out a problem. But a lot of these categories are the same basic thing you had sitting on 10. These two at the bottom are definitely new ones. Screenshot borders and screenshot and apps. I haven't gotten into it, so I can't speak too much about that. Windows Update. That's all there is, folks. There is almost nothing left in here that is on 10 or even on 8. You can pause your updates up to 1 week or so. They will let you go to 5 weeks, but after that, they won't let you delay it any longer. So if you're out on the road as a salesperson, you might want to put it on pause so that you don't get a major upgrade while you're out on the road. Wait until you get back home. Update history if you're interested in that, and some advanced options. Most of us, I don't think, touch either one of those two categories. So generally speaking, there is a lot of change. If you are one of the people that doesn't like change, boy, you're gonna really unlike Windows 11. But some Windows 7 users who didn't like 10 might be looking at 11 to upgrade to. However, even though Microsoft is saying that the new Office 2021 and non-subscription version and Windows 10 21H2 and Windows 11 21H2 is the initial release date. How many people can get their hands on it? October the 5th is undetermined. If you are trying to put this on an unsupported system, you may have to wait all the way to mid-year next year. Other people who might start seeing automatic updates because they have a compliant supported system might start seeing that next spring when 22H1 tends to come out. So these are some of the basic features. This is your search. It's a magnifying glass. You type your search in here. It gives you a few top apps in case that's what you're looking for, the calculator settings, snipping, one of the browsers, and another program. Recent Task Manager is a headache. Right now, other than clicking on this, I had to go up here to the search bar, type in Task Manager to bring it up, because if you right-click an empty spot on the taskbar, all you get is taskbar settings. You cannot get to the Task Manager that way any longer in Windows 11. To me, that's a headache. You have categories you can search by to say that I want to look on the web right now for something I know is not my machine. If I want just apps that are in the machine, I go to apps and type it in and see if it's there. So if something got removed from 11 that was on 10 and or you cannot find it, then you go here to the search, you click on apps, type in that name of the app that you're looking for, and it's either something that has been moved or it is something that's been taken out. Some of the stuff that was taken out is now in Microsoft Store down here at the bottom of the taskbar. That store probably isn't used by a high percentage of people, but that's where you're going to find a lot of things may get moved to. Documents, if you know you're looking for a document, click on documents and type in the name of the document to see if it can find where it was stored at. And you have more options as to, oh, I'm looking for an email. I'm looking for a specific folder. I'm looking for music, people, photos, settings, videos, etc. So it has a lot of flexibility. And one of the things, before I forget about it, they have announced a major overhaul of the paint application. Supposedly, it looks very, very good to my way of thinking. So if you were a person who shunned away, I guess is the best way to say it, on Windows 10 or even 8, then by all means, I would look at the new paint, but I haven't gotten a strong sense whether they're going to include it in 11 or you got to get it from the App Store. This here is something that most people don't utilize, even in 10. Basically, if you're a person who likes to have several different programs open, this is a feature you should be using because it allows you to spread those programs over multiple desktops. It defaults to one, which is your main desktop. And then you click this one here to add another desktop, which I did for desktop 2. And this way, let's say that I've got a browser for research open on my main window. On this one here, I've got a Word document or I've got an Excel spreadsheet, something like that open. I might have another window with another program, etc. And all I have to do is switch between windows. Alt-Tab should get me the same thing, but there is a bug they accidentally introduced recently. So Alt-Tab is not working right now. And I hope the heck they have it fixed by the time they launch this thing. Next, this one here is widgets. This is a throwback to the good old days, if you want to call them good. I think it was Vista that originally had widgets. I don't have any on the system right now, but you have things like the clocks that a lot of people like to have on the desktop versus looking down at their sys tray to see the day and time. And there were a bunch of other ones like the weather and stuff like that. So I haven't really dug into that. This is chat, they call it. This is actually Teams. They are trying to compete with Google's Meet that also appears on Windows 10 systems as a little camera down on your sys tray. And it's so you can do a quick and dirty video conference. This is basically what they're trying to do here. I have had it up, I think, once, and outside of that, they've broken it. Hopefully they get that fixed. This is the new Edge browser. Personally speaking, I like it. It has all the features of Chrome because it was made by Chromium, the foundation of Chrome. So If you like Chrome browser, you should be able to adapt Edge quite easily, but there are differences. I like the way Chrome downloads programs and puts them down as icons on the bottom of the window. In Edge, the default is to download like Firefox does. So unless you pin it up on the top there, you have to come to downloads, and then you get to see what's there, and that's the icon for downloads. If you were downloading a file, that would show up, and it shows up as a circle as it's downloading, then turns this from white to blue. And it's somewhat a bit of personal preference. There is no two ways about it. That's what the computers are all about, is personal preference, how you like to see things and do things. The next one is File Explorer. This one's a trip. They took away most of the ribbon bar stuff here at the top and left very little. You have are you creating something new? Cutting, copying, pasting, sharing. I forget what this one icon is. It's very difficult to see, I grant you. There's nothing I can do about it. And then you have the trash can. Sorting, whether you're ascending or descending. Views as to whether you're using large icons, extra large, large, medium, small, list, details, tiles, content, compact view. That's something new. Compact view shortens the list by getting rid of a bit of the fluff and extra space on the non-compact view. So if I take that and click that again, see how much extra space is in there? It has to do with readability of your list. And I normally would have it on details instead of tiles. See how much space is between each of these to increase the readability. If I click on the compact view, I see more content, but it's all squished together. So again, a personal individual preference. This feature of folders, recent, etc., a lot of that bothers me. I didn't like the grouping feature that was on 10. I always turned that feature off. The three dots give you a little bit of what you can also change along with options. This is a throwback screen if there ever was one. And this gives you general characteristics of folders, browsing, how it's done, clicking on items, privacy, your views, what you can see, what you can't see, and you can change some things there. You're searching and some of the characteristics you can change there. Now, let's take here downloads. Now, I have lots of different files in here and some folders. If I take one of these and I right-click on it, this is what you get versus what you see on 10. And this is very, very important factor in the change in 11. Now you have a ribbon at the top instead of the items of cut, copy, paste, share, and delete. It uses these icons instead. Then you have a few of the other features that you also have in 10. This is new in that I know of in this menu. It may be unique to 11, I'm not sure. But show more options, you get the old Windows 10 menu you already know. So if you want to go through clicking down at the bottom here and show more each time you want one of these functions, especially the cut, copy, delete, etc., and share, that's what you got to do. Otherwise, it's expected you to adopt these icons to do basically the same thing. The hotkeys of Control X to cut, Control C to copy, and Control V as in Victor to paste still work fine. So a lot of this stuff, you got a lot of different looks, a lot of different feels, and it's kind of a case where you can badmouth it all you want. You can say, I hate it all you want. That won't change a thing. If you want, you can come in here to all apps, come down here to F, Feedback Hub. They're always looking for feedback. If you make negative feedback about anything, they're going to ignore it, flat out. If you can make it as positive as you can, or at least try and keep it neutral and civil, those they will take and try and do things. I've given feedback here on 11 in order to try and get a couple things I found as problems corrected. And the very next update I got, it was all fixed. So feedback hubs, another area most users either don't know about and or won't explore to learn how to use this feature. But when you come across what you think is a problem, it wants to know what you have done in a sense to figure out, is this a problem that you have, or is this a problem that's really a bug in the program we need as Microsoft to know about? And so when you click on report a problem, you have to go through the gauntlet, summarize basically what is the problem, then explain in more detail, choose a category that applies to that problem, such as I have a mouse problem, or which is a device. I have a network problem. I have a display problem, something like that. Find similar feedback, because maybe somebody's already reported it and you might already have a solution to your problem before you submit this feedback. And then add more details, which allows you to also, if you have screenshots, attach the screenshots to help say in fewer words what you think the problem is. I'm going to just get out of that. Microsoft Store, they've done a lot of revamping in Microsoft Store for apps. And it's kind of a, oops, woo, refresh the, well, ain't that something? We've got a problem. Maybe I gotta make a report. It's saying try again later. But generally, functionality, it's very much like the old story you got on 10 and 8, etc. It's where you find a lot of applications, games, things like that. that are not part of Windows without going out on the internet to other sites, either through a search or to specific sites that have software that you're used to download some new feature. And this is what I meant by this periodically changes. You had the round, somewhat bent disc. Now you got the ribbon. It's kind of interesting, some of the changes that come up. The rest of everything on here I put on, so on the taskbar, there isn't much there. Now, I'm going to come up here, and I have purpose for this. Okay, I'm going to go to the weekly news and tips. I have to report this search feature is not working right. Any postings I have made in 2020 or 2021 do not show up on search results, only older stuff. So we have to use the old fallback search feature of browsers. I'm going to go to this week here. I'm going to hold down the control key and touch the F as in Frank key. And it created a little box here near the top of the screen. I have seen it on some systems down in the lower part of the screen. So you have to look for it. Now, I can put search values in here, and I recommend you keep it as short as possible to get the best results. I'm going to stick in Windows 11. Over here, it shows it is pointing to the first of 81 finds of Windows 11. You have an up arrow key and a down arrow key. These are your scroll keys. The one that is current is highlighted in like an orangish color. If I scroll down, I hit another one here. The sad part is I have seen up to 4. Now, this is one article that has Windows 11 in the headline, and in the subtitle section, it repeats, and that's in yellow. If I click the down arrow again on the search, it changes color because this is the one it focused on. I've seen it once or twice down in the URL, and today it's not showing the URL. It's only showing the title and the subtitle. Maybe they made a change since the last update that I've gotten on this. I don't do updates in the traditional way we've always done updates. This thing automatically, because I'm an insider, installs the updates whenever they're available, day or night. And I never have to restart the system, but I have to log back into the system. This is how you would do it. If you're really into 11, I suggest you go back a bit in time. I would say August, and go up to current weeks in searching for articles. Why? Because some things have changed so much. If you go in the recent weeks and then go backwards to the older stuff, you're going to get yourself confused. If you start at older stuff and work your way to the newest stuff, you're going to be less confused, and you're going to see where they've made modifications, such as allowing 11 to be installed eventually on unsupported systems. My guess is when computers are brand new, any computer likely under $500 probably will never support 11 officially. And of those over $500. Not every one of them is going to have a CPU that is supported. So you got to really watch what you are going to buy. If you buy an older computer, you might need a list of all the processors, but if you expect the people where you're buying it to know what specific processor is in that machine, I gotta wish you a lot of luck. I don't think it's going to happen, because most of them, it was bad on store help, helping you out before the pandemic, and now it's even worse than that. You gotta know what you want, you gotta find what you want, and then pay for it. Other than that, don't expect help when you're shopping for something. If I take this search box, I do a backspace and put in a 0, it is now saying I'm on the 10th item of 39 for Windows 10. And this is how you would find things like here. This is starting to talk about the experience package is now available for 21H1, which is this spring version that's active right now, and last year's fall edition 20H2. So you can search for that, or take off and just leave Windows. Now it says I'm on item 63 out of 312 entries in just this 1 week's articles, because you're searching by the whole week, not by the day. It's an entire week's worth of stuff. And this is the fastest way to find it. All you got to do is when you find an article you want, click the URL, it'll open a new tab. My personal preference, I keep going through the search and let it keep opening up new tabs up on the top of the tab browser. And when I'm done searching, that's when I start looking at each article's tab and start reading it. And usually within the first paragraph or two, you know if this article is likely to address something you're interested in. If it's not, X out of the tab and go on to the next tab article that you opened up. Opening up one, reading it, and then going back to the search and finding another one, to me, that's a very slow way of doing things. I'd rather get them all at once, then I can, at my leisure, read through everything I think had an interesting topic and subtopic. If you are want to expand beyond Windows, you can put in Mac OS, and here's some Macs. There's 20 things it found on Mac OS. You can put in iOS, and it found 15 in this week. If I go iPad, oops, that sound you hear is telling you you made a typo. And here's iPad OS. You can put in Raspberry Pi. There's only 4 entries, but if that's what you're interested in, you can get that. You can also put in Android. If you have a specific model like Android 12, which is the one that they're going to be releasing here shortly, then you can look for Android 12 and only see the articles for Android 12 versus any Android article. So it depends on how fine you want to have your search versus broad character. If like Windows, if you just put in Windows, it's going to show you tons of articles that are generic Windows tips and tricks and other information you would want to know. The one area that you can't really do are like this. This is a security article. They do not all come with the word security, and therefore there's no way of, say, searching for various articles you want to know about some given thing. There you may have to put in a keyword about that particular thing, such as ransomware. That you'll find some. In fact, in this here 1 week, you got 45 occurrences. So you can get some security if you know some of the right keywords to stick in. This is how I'm gonna, in the PDF that I'm gonna give you, it's 2 pages roughly. There's a bunch of articles on 11 that are most insightful. There are people who are saying, yes, you might be able to install, and that's a maybe, Windows on an unsupported system. However, you may not want to. One issue that's a gray issue right now, in other words, it's not definitive. Are you going to get any of the updates that we normally get with all Windows operating systems? On supported systems, the answer is yes. On unsupported systems, it's a maybe. Maybe you will get them and maybe you will not get them. And I have no definitive answer at this time that I have been able to find. So at this point, I'll open things up for Q&A on 11, and we'll see where I can go from there. Any questions? Gee, everybody went home or fell asleep.
I'll ask one.
Okay.
I thought that thing at the very beginning was kind of interesting, where you said it kind of tells you how much of the stuff on your computer is documents or videos or whatever.
Storage sense.
Yeah. Does it by chance let you happen to maybe click on one of those to like see what's in it, or to copy from there by chance? Like if I want to copy documents or something?
Copy, no. You might be able to see some, hang on 1 second here. Storage sense. Let's get this up. I can view the documents. All it did was open up File Explorer, and it went to the documents folder and says, okay, this is all the documents. Okay, so it doesn't get specific. When it comes to the category, let's see, I'm not sure what it's going to do on temp. I'm going to come back up here. Temporary files. These are usually all over the place. Okay, it does say downloads. Now it's, I like keeping the last program download I got, and anything older I delete out. I don't like that setup. Yes, it's taking up a chunk of space. If I really needed a lot of space, I would take everything in the download folders I can and move it to an external drive, at least temporarily. These are thumbnails. They're taking up 51 megabytes. Other temporary files, apps used for storage and other things like that, 33.3 megabytes. Delivery options. This is Windows. They try and create optimization for files they download in advance. There is a feature I've never used that I could download all my updates, say for Windows 10 on one machine, and then share all those downloads with all the other machines instead of going to each of those machines and doing an independent download and installation of the software. Temporary internet files. This is files that are created every time you activate browsers. DirectX shader cache. I don't know how many people would even have this. Usually this is something for gamers. But one thing that is a definite in Windows 11, they're going high-end graphics. You want, I think you're going to be disappointed to have 11 on a 720p, also known as HD display. You're going to want full HD, which is 1080p, 1440, 21 something, and 28 something, which is 4K. So you really want the higher resolutions for a lot of 11 because it is very graphical. It's really trying to start competing in what I would say is Apple's bailiwick, which was a lot of heavy graphics. But there's a lot of people in Windows that use graphics quite a bit. It's just a case where it's not anything like people do on a Mac system or a Mac Pro, etc. Those are quite often professional videographers and people who do like weddings, parties, etc., etc., and then try and sell you copies of them for everybody who attended. I know that from experience. So it's kind of one of these things where you have to, you have here right now cleanup recommendations. Over 5 gigabytes of storage could be made available. So, but you got to take this with a grain of salt. I haven't tested the feature yet. I still use the old tools like CCleaner and some other ones as well. And the reason I do that is because I still support 10 on a lot of machines. So I've got to keep up with them anyhow. Storage Sense is on 10, but almost nobody has it active. And if you're a person that's tight on hard disk space, you really should activate it to try and keep things from slowing down too much, because once you reach a certain point of how much stuff you have on your drive, it starts slowing the whole computer down. And that's deliberate, trying to prevent losses. Anybody else?
One more for me. When you were on the apps startup, there was one on there that said Power Automate Desktop. And I was wondering, what was that?
Yeah, that's a new category. I'm getting emails on it. I haven't researched it yet. Hang on. This is the
App Startup. It was App Startup.
Oh, just a startup? Okay.
Yeah, it was under the startup, I think I saw.
Yeah, there's a new category of software. Here it is, Power Automate Desktop. And I haven't gotten deep into it because it's something fairly recent this month. And I just haven't had enough time to keep doing it. But they're trying a new feature that has to do with learning how you do things on your system to make things a little easier. But that's something I would have to get into and report on in a future meeting, because right now I just haven't had the time to play with it. There's lots of new features. I mean, if you hunt around on this 11, heck, I'll bet most of you, if you really sat down and started really playing around on your Windows 10, looking at what everything does, you'll be amazed how much you have not taken advantage of. Anyone else got something?
Okay, Tim, you wanna shut down your screen?